Welcome in, everybody. Let's get it rolling on Heartland College Sports. I'm Pete Mundo, and glad you're here as a part of the show. So here we go with the 5 teams that are most unpredictable going into the Big 12 football season. This is not a list of teams that I think will be good, but will be bad. It's not a list of teams that I think will be bad, but could be good. It's just 5 teams that I can't really figure out right now. And the reality is this for the Big 12 conference. The Big 12, you could put all 16 teams into this category. You could list 16 teams and say, here's why I don't know what to make of this team. Even those we expect to be near the top, i.e. Arizona State, Texas Tech, Kansas State, everybody's got a question mark. And those at the bottom end, you can make a case for why they might just exceed expectations. They might just shock the world. And in fact, that's what happened last year with Arizona State. So as always, like the video as you're joining us. Please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well. Makes a huge difference. Glad you're here on Heartland College Sports. And let's get it rolling. So this was a hard list to whittle down to 5. But I will give you my 5 teams. And I will start with 2 teams that we all thought were going to be competitive last year, and now I think are in very similar spots. Oklahoma State is number 1. The Oklahoma State Cowboys are a team that we thought would compete for the Big 12 title last year. They were in the game for a Big 12 championship 2 years ago, got smoked by Texas. Last year, they go 0-9. 0-9 in the Big 12. Worst year of Mike Gundy's coaching career, nearly 2 decades in, as one of the longest tenured coaches in all of college football. And now you sit here and you say, okay, what is Oklahoma State this year? Mike Gundy's been raving about the fact that, wow, I actually just pay guys and they come. It's like, yeah, dude, it's kind of the point. It's what everybody else has been doing. Welcome to the party. You're a couple of years late, but I guess better late than never. And now you say, okay, what does he have coming in? And is Mike Gundy the kind of guy who can mold a group that really is just getting to know each other? Mike Gundy's old school. He would basically find under-recruited guys and turn them into stars. Justin Blackmon was famously a 2-star recruit. Brandon Whedon, of course, baseball guy, comes back to football. He's like 28 years old. You know the story. So that's how Mike Gundy has always found a success. But now he's got 40 incoming transfers. And yeah, he's got some really good players. No doubt about it. He's got, first off, quality tight ends and guys from BYU and Utah State. And he's got offensive linemen from Nebraska. I mean, he's got players up and down on both lines in particular that can make a big difference for this Oklahoma State program. There's no doubt about it. So you're looking at this team and you're saying to yourself, okay, I like the prospects. I've always liked the way Gundy's recruited. He's got, new coordinators, obviously. So he's just got a lot of new parts. Do you trust Mike Gundy enough to roll the dice and say, you know what? I'm going to take the over 5 or 5.5 wins. And I think he could find himself 7 or 8. I'm not predicting that right now. It's too early to have that conversation, but it's time to at least wonder whether or not Mike Gundy is going to have that bounce back year that a lot of, obviously, Oklahoma State fans desperately want him to have. Because if Mike Gundy has like a 3-9 season, 4-8, people are going to say the game's passed him by. I mean, heck, they were saying that at the end of last year. There will be a contingent of Oklahoma State fans that just say, we love what Mike has done for us. We love what he has done for the program. But this is now an untenable situation. The game has passed him by. We can't do this anymore. And that's potentially where the conversation goes. The other way it goes is never doubt Mike Gundy. It was a brutal year. We should have maybe seen it coming because of how much he rejected the idea of the portal, but he's learned his lesson. He's a new man. It's Gundy 2.0. He's all about the portal, and we're going to be just fine. That's the other way this thing could end up going as well. So it just remains to be seen what exactly this team is going to be. And here's the other fascinating part about this as well. It is the kind of schedule that we will learn very quickly what Oklahoma State is. Oregon, week 2 on the road. Oh, gosh, that is going to be a doozy. And then they open up Big 12 play late September against Baylor, one of the hottest teams in the Big 12 at the end of last year. A team that, frankly, I think believes it can compete atop the Big 12. They have the best quarterback running back duo in the Big 12 in Sawyer Robertson and Washington. So you got all that mapped out for a Baylor team at home, Big 12 opener. You better watch out. And then you have 2 games that you think are winnable. Arizona and Houston, 2 teams projected to be near the bottom of the Big 12. If at that point, Oklahoma State is not sitting there at the very worst 3-3, but you got to be feeling like 4-2 is where that team should be at that point at the worst, with losses to Oregon and maybe Baylor. If you're any worse than 4-2, it's going to get loud in Stillwater. There's no doubt about it. And that will be obviously halfway through the season. So Oklahoma State's atop of my list for a team that I can't get a read on because I don't know how new coordinators are going to operate. Gundy's philosophy with working in all these transfers, the schedule's fascinating in the first half of the year, and man, it's going to be a lot of fun. So Oklahoma State's at the top of my list for unpredictable teams to watch in the Big 12 this year. Next up, Utah. Utah, for a similar reason, we thought they were going to compete, of course, atop the Big 12 this past season. It did not happen. They also shocked with how bad they were. And yeah, you can talk about injuries at the quarterback position. There's no doubt about it. But you also have one of the longest tenured coaches in all of the entire sport in Kyle Whittingham in a position that he really has never been in and was certainly not projected to be in at the start of last year. They were picked to win the entire thing. So now it's like, all right, they finally have moved on at quarterback. You feel good about Dampier and what he can do coming in from New Mexico at quarterback. And you figure the defense is going to be just fine. Got some really good transfer players at that position. And we think we've got something to work with if you're Utah. And they should feel that way, right? But then you're looking at this Utah team and you're saying, what if? Now, they were not as active in the portal as Mike Gundy was. I don't think they needed the reset that Mike Gundy needed. Utah was snake bitten in a lot of respects by the injury bug. And we all know that. It's not intended to be an excuse. But I mean, at one point, they were at what in the season? They were on like their 4th string quarterback at one point or another, right? I mean, they were just in a very difficult spot throughout last season. And no one could have projected it to go as bad as it did. Oklahoma State's season was way worse than Utah's was. But you look at some of those games, I mean, Oklahoma State was getting crushed. Like that last game against Colorado, what was that, 52-0? Utah was not getting blown out for the most part. We know about, like, at the end of the season, BYU game, I won't revisit that, but we know how close that was, what it came down to. They were right in the Iowa State game at the very end in late November. They lost to Houston by a field goal, TCU by a touchdown, Arizona State by a touchdown. Like that right there, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 losses by a score or less for a team that at some point was like on its 3rd, 4th string quarterback. So Utah can have that bounce back season that people don't necessarily see coming because they're thinking about last year and they're like, they went 2-7, didn't have a great year, but they were very strategic in the transfer portal in terms of the quality of player that they brought in. And that makes a big difference as well. When you look at the quality of player, not just how many, right? When you look at the quality of player, Utah is right in the top 3 to 4 when you talk about average recruiting ranking folks they brought in. Normally, when you look at like the top transfer portal classes, it's not just based on quality of player. It's also based on how many you bring in. If you just go based on the average player, Utah was right there in the top 3 or 4 in the Big 12. So they did very well with the pieces they felt they needed in the portal. but I still can't get a great read on this team right now. Number 3 on my list of unpredictable teams that I can't get a read on in the Big 12. Let's go to Colorado. You lose a Heisman Trophy winner. You lose the star quarterback, who also happens to be the son of the head coach. It creates a fascinating storyline in college football, one of the best storylines in all of college football last year. But does anybody feel good about saying, hey, Colorado is ready to roll? Now, Colorado fans will. We have some great Colorado fans on our message boards, and they're fantastic, and they're really letting me know and letting all of us, if you're a member, and I hope that you are, it's free to join at heartlandcollegesports.com. They're like, hey, we love where this team is at right now. The quality of player that we've got, not just in the portal, but I talked a little bit about this last week as well. Also, the quality of recruit that Deion's been able to kind of mentor and develop over the last couple of years has been tremendous for this program. And they haven't lost a lot of those high-end guys either. Now, there's a belief that losing Travis and losing Shedeur and losing the other brother too, I'm forgetting him, Shedur's brother, we'll just call him that for sake of the conversation, losing them may actually end up working out better for Deion and better for the team and better for the cohesion of this team to develop these guys, right? And it's believed that, of course, Salter's going to be the starting quarterback, the transfer from Liberty. That's where we're at least as of this conversation. And it's like, think about the pieces that are being put together as well. You've got now Marshall Faulk as your running backs coach at Colorado. I think some people forget about that. Marshall Faulk is now the running backs coach at Colorado. It doesn't get much better than that. Now, of course, doing something doesn't necessarily mean you can be a great coach, but you got Deion, right? You got Warren Sapp on that D-line. You got Marshall Faulk running that running backs room. I mean, you got big-time guys sitting right there saying, hey, what can you do for me? What can I learn from you? Can I soak up some of what you've got going on there? I mean, that's what a lot of people, rightfully so, in that room are thinking of themselves. And they should be. So this is a Colorado team that is hard to figure out because it's like starting from scratch in terms of not just losing star players, but what this team is and what Deion wants this program to be and how it's defined. Because for the last couple of years, it was defined by really 2 guys. And yes, they had good players and solid players all over the place. They, found themselves in the hunt for a Big 12 title last year. But those 2 were so overwhelming in terms of how they defined the program. It's like a totally different team right now. And that's something that also needs to be, I think, talked about when you look at what this Colorado team is going to be all about this season. So I can't get a read. And they got Georgia Tech to open the season. Then they have Delaware, then Houston to open up Big 12 play, followed by Wyoming at home, and then BYU and TCU. So you're talking about 6 games out of the gates. And if you're Colorado, you've got to be like, hey, I'm working in a new quarterback. I've got to be at least 3-3 there to feel good about things, right? That's where I think this Colorado team feels like it needs to be and should want to be as it looks at this season, this schedule, new pieces, knowing you got a new starting quarterback, right? And trying to figure out what exactly this program is going to look like and how it's going to be defined from here on out as well. So that week 1 game against Georgia Tech is, I think, pretty underrated. I feel like it's not getting a lot of attention for the non-conference Big 12 games. And I know that Georgia Tech doesn't make anybody jump off the page, but it's Friday night. It'll be at Folsom Field, post Shedeur. What's it going to look like? Coach Prime, the whole thing. It's going to be a show, and it's going to be a must-watch show as well. I got to add that as well. I can't deny that for a second. And thank you for reminding me of Shedeur's brother's name, Shiloh. Thank you. I still think we should just call him Shedeur's brother, or maybe Deion's son. Shedeur's brother is probably better. Make sure we all know who we're talking about here. All right, so I got 2 more teams here. I got a list for my 5 most unpredictable teams in the Big 12. Let's go to the Kansas Jayhawks. This may surprise some of you, but Kansas is a team that I thought was going to compete last year because you had Daniels coming back at quarterback. You had Devin Neal. You had a secondary that was really outstanding. And it just didn't work. Well, it didn't work until it did work, right? They came on late in the season, but by then it was just too little too late. And you thought to yourself, man, what could have been? What could have been had Daniels really been healthy? Because he had missed most of the last 2 years. And they had this 5-game losing streak early in the season, and they were close losses. You think about that Illinois game, the UNLV game, the West Virginia game. Arizona State was a close loss. And then they turn it around down the stretch. They beat Iowa State. They beat BYU. They beat Colorado. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, who have we got here? Now, they lost good players to the NFL, right? They lost Neal. They lost their secondary guys. So a lot of really good players graduated, but Daniels is back. And he's back, and he's finally back having played a full season, which he really hadn't done in the better part of 2.5 years, right? So now he's got that full season back under his belt, obviously the most complete season, and he was fantastic down the stretch. But now you're wondering, if you're a Kansas fan, what's around him? What do they have coming in? What has Lance Leipold done to rebuild the program? What do they look like now on that defensive line? Well, they got a lot of good players on that, especially defensive line. I like a lot of what they did, frankly, on the trenches in the transfer portal. They did a really nice job getting some high-end, high-quality players to join them on both sides of the line. Alex Bray comes from Illinois at defensive line. They got another edge guy, Leroy Harris. I think he's I was looking at him earlier. Chattanooga guy. They got a guy from Texas in the portal as well, Finkley. So they've got some really nice players that you would like on both sides of the line that can make a big difference for them going forward. And they got some weapons too for Daniels, which you have to like. And frankly, the more of those, the merrier. They got a bunch of wide receivers in the transfer portal that can make a big splash. Got a guy from Alabama that can make some noise. I'm sure they want him to make some noise for them. But those are the kind of players that aren't household Big 12 names right now, but that can be. That can make a huge difference in terms of what this season ends up looking like for the Kansas Jayhawks. Emmanuel Henderson, that was the guy I was thinking of from Alabama. And this is a guy who was a 4-star prospect, top 50, 60 player in the country. He was actually a running back coming out of high school, and he was the number 3 player in the state of Alabama. He's now at KU. So guys like that can really help Jalen Daniels have the kind of season that most people may not expect. No one's going to predict KU to be at the top, but you look at the schedule, and it's very soft out of the gates. Fresno State, Wagner at Missouri. Now, that's a non-con, but that's a tough game. But here's the opening of conference play. West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF. Those are 3 teams projected to be at the bottom of the Big 12 standings. They could be 3-0 going to Texas Tech on October 11th. And then it's Tech and Kansas State back-to-back games. Not back-to-back weeks. They got a bye week in between there. So you're looking at that. If you're a Kansas fan, you're saying, boy, I'm looking at these 3 games and saying, why can't I win these 3? And then I'm going to Lubbock, and that game could have massive Big 12 implications coming up in early October. I mean, suddenly that looks like one of those games where you say to yourself, whoa, followed by a bye week, and then followed by the Sunflower Showdown, which you're going to have at home this year, which right now on the secondary market, look at this, secondary market tickets for the Sunflower Showdown, $303 to get in. Now, that's also going to be at KU's new stadium, not the new stadium, the refurbished booth. But, man, that's a big nut for that game. So KU season looks like it is going to be fascinating if they hit on some of these big pieces. And next up on my list of the most unpredictable teams in the Big 12 this year, based on all the offseason chaos, I could have gone a lot of directions here. I've got to go with West Virginia. I have no idea. Rich Rodriguez is back. Outside of the quarterback, no one knows any of these guys. Oh, and the running back, of course, Jaheim White. But, and I'm saying this, of course, a little tongue-in-cheek. You've got so many new faces there. 52 players in the portal. 52. Iowa State had 8 players come in the portal. West Virginia brought in 52. That is unbelievable. And Rich Rod is mining all over the country. I mean, he is just going wherever he can find them. And I think you're going to look at a team here. And this also came courtesy of our message boards at Heartland College Sports. We've got some great West Virginia fans on there who are like, Rich Rod is just recruiting a bunch of BAMFs. Figure out that acronym in your spare time. And they're going to be tough, and they're going to be gritty, and they're going to get down in the dirt, in the mud, and they're going to smack you across the helmet. And, I mean, it is going to be unlike a West Virginia football team that we haven't seen, frankly, probably since Rich Rod 1.0. This is not going to be Neil Brown's team. This is not going to be Dana Holgerson's team. Even when Dana had his good teams, you know, they put up a lot of points. They were flashy in offense. And they didn't have much of a defense. That is not what Rich Rod is doing here. And a lot of these guys we don't know coming in. They're not maybe all from the Power 4 ranks and things of that nature, but they are going to be tough sons of guns, and they are going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I have no clue what to expect with any of it. The over-under, obviously, is not pretty for West Virginia. And I'm not sitting here saying they're going to blow it out of the water because they could be a team that wins 3 games. And even if they do, we're going to say about West Virginia, hey, you know what? It's okay. Not a big deal. It's a rebuild. You took a shot on a bunch of transfers. It was too many guys in too short a period of time to make this thing really click. It wasn't realistic to expect that at a Rich Rod in year 1. Then a part of you says, well, maybe they shocked the world. Someone's going to surprise in the Big 12. I think that's the thing we have to remember here. Somebody that we are, generally speaking, predicting to finish near the bottom of the Big 12 standings will be in contention in November for a trip to Jerry World. I'm not saying they're going to win it. I'm not saying we have a rags to riches Arizona State team this year. But when you look at the bottom of this league, or what we predict will be likely the bottom of this league, and that's Arizona, that is West Virginia, that is UCF, that's Cincinnati. If you want to throw Oklahoma State in there, you probably can. Those 5-6 teams, one of them is going to shock us this year. The question is, which one? And I don't know if it's going to be Rich Rod, but I'll tell you right now, if I got to roll the dice on a head coach in that group, Gundy would be right up there, and Rich Rod would not be far behind. Can he make it work in year 1 is the $1 million question, and that remains to be seen. Their schedule, Robert Morris, Ohio, and Pittsburgh out of the gates, and then at KU versus Utah, and a short week to go to BYU. They got no favors there to open up the season. Travel to KU, come home, play Utah, and, you know, I don't know if Utah's going to be at the top of the Big 12. I'd put them on my list as well, but it's going to be a hard-fought game. Great defensive matchup. And then you got a short week traveling to BYU. I mean, no favors there. Then you got a bye week. So hopefully you're kind of racing through the finish line there on the first half of the season. But those are my 5 teams. So the 5 teams that I've got as the most unpredictable in the Big 12 this year: Oklahoma State, Utah, West Virginia, Kansas, and Colorado. Those are the 5. And I could have made arguments for probably the other, if I wanted to, 11 teams in the Big 12 because everybody is somewhat unpredictable. But those 5 are the ones that I can't get a read on right now if I tried. And I'm going to spend the next 3 months trying to figure this out for you, and we're going to do a bunch of shows about it. So I hope that you're subscribed right here to the channel at Heartland College Sports on YouTube, on the podcast, Apple, Spotify. I hope you're here with us the whole way because the next 3 months is going to be about figuring out what these teams are going to be all about and then looking at the schedules as well. I'm Pete Mundo. So glad that you're here on HeartlandCollegeSports.com. Sign up for the free forums. And as always, the merch shop is wide open, and that's where you get great hoodies like this. Let me share this with you real fast. This came on, looking at my phone here. This came through an Apple podcast the other day. I like to look at all your reviews. This came in from Gary in Germany, across the pond. Not sure what's worse, the content or pandering to perceived Heartland values that don't include intelligence, originality, or humor. I don't know what I did to Gary, but he crushed us there on the Apple podcast reviews. So if you could take 30 seconds out, if you're on the podcast, and drop us a nice 5-star rating and review, I would so appreciate you doing that. And make sure that you are here on the YouTube channel as well. Mike says, looking at some of your comments, BYU was that team last year, expected to be 4-8, and they shocked the world. No. Arizona State was that team. They were picked dead last, and they won the whole deal. But really, last year, the Big 12 was upside down. Arizona State, Colorado, BYU, none of them predicted near the top of the conference, and we all know how it played out, right? Desert Devil says Texas Tech is going to choke. I got to see it to believe it. I'm with you there, but I'm not predicting a choke job right now for Texas Tech. Colorado is an easy one, 4, maybe 5 wins, says Mike. Utah. Now, listen, I know that everyone's a homer for their own team, but seriously, you talk to the folks in Boulder, they are much higher on this roster and on this team than people outside of Boulder. So I'm just telling you that from talking to these guys, whether it's fans in the forums or some of the people out there, they might be a lot better than we expect. Let's see. I like TCU and Baylor. They're 2 sneaky teams this year that people got to keep a closer eye on. I totally agree on TCU and Baylor. Either of them could win the Big 12 this year, and people are not talking enough about them. Bob's watching in Princeton, Texas, fastest growing city in the USA. I got to see the data to believe that, but I'll take your word for it there, Bob. Seem like a good guy. Williams says Colorado's ceiling is about 7-5, and that's if the offensive line holds up. You know, I'll give you an example. Cash Cleveland left Colorado and transferred this spring to Texas Tech. I talked to some folks out there, and they think they're going to upgrade at that position. Cash Cleveland was one of the top interior offensive linemen in the portal, but he was a former walk-on at Colorado. And people at Colorado feel like they've got the talent behind him to fill that gap very easily. So, once again, is that how it's going to play out? I don't know. I'm just sharing what I hear from people with you right here on the show, and you do with the information what you ultimately want. All right? That's what's going to, of course, make this fun. But I just can't wait. These next 3 months are going to be wild. John is calling Texas Tech BYU in the championship game. All right. Bold prediction there, John. Too early for me, brother, but I love the enthusiasm. Mike says BYU and Arizona State. Got some early BYU love for that spot there as well. All right. I like it. Oh, screw me. I can't. No Matthew McConaughey references here. Can't do it. I am wrapping up the weekend playing solo dad duty with kids 6, 4, and 1. So I made it. There was no smoke coming out of my roof this weekend, and we're back in a groove this week. So thank you as always. Please do make sure that you are subscribed. Love having you here and love getting to do these shows with you guys every single day. Just want to keep them coming. You know, the more that obviously you're spreading the word, the better off, we are, and the better off we are able to grow things at Heartland College Sports. So thank you guys. Have an awesome rest of your day. We got much more coming your way this week across the conference and across the channel. We'll talk to you soon.